Roll Tide! Roll Tide Roll! This is the Tigers and Tide Alabama Football Podcast from SoutheasternFootball.com. Available on Bama Sports Radio, a V-Sporto channel bringing you all Crimson Tide all the time. Remember to download the Bama Sports Radio free iOS app and follow their channel on Twitter at Bama Sports Radio. Here are your hosts, Brett Mason and Jamie Thomas.
Broadcasting live from our respective Alabama and Auburn bunkers in Southeast Alabama. I am Brett Mason. Here's my co-host, Jamie Thomas. War Eagle, buddy.
Roll Tide.
I want to say to everyone that's listening on our free iOS or Android apps, you can get those in your app stores by searching for Tigers and Tide. And thanks to everybody that's subscribed on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and more. We're easy to find on any of those platforms. Just search for Tigers and Tide. And a reminder to VIP members, your full 1-hour podcast and VIP articles are available. We're always trying to write new and creative stuff for our VIP members. And if you'd like to find out more about that, just go to southeasternfootball.com/VIP, southeasternfootball.com/VIP. We have a big show. We've got several things to get to as we lead up to a week of lots of hype and speculation and opening kickoff weekend, Jamie. But nevertheless, I think we're all just happy that it's finally time.
Man, we are, 3 days now away from actual college football, 6 days away or 5 days away from some Alabama and Auburn football. Good gracious, but I don't know about you, man, but I could put on the helmet right now and knock heads with somebody.
Well, maybe if I had a couple shots of something to drink, maybe I might.
my adrenaline, man, I don't know. It's just crazy. I get really pumped up this time of year. I'm ready for some football.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on that. Not ready to knock heads, but I am pumped up and fired up about it. I'll tell you that. I haven't really seen a lot of big breaking stories the past few days that I can think of. Any big stories? Probably the most interesting thing that I've read concerning Alabama is just how impressed everybody is with this Reggie Ragland winding down fall camp as they start to prepare for Wisconsin. How he's just really stepped up and is leading the defense. And you know, anytime you're being compared to Courtney Upshaw, Dante Hightower, and C.J. Mosely, that's pretty high praise right there. Well,
this is what we've been waiting to see out of Reggie Ragland. You know, he had a decent year last year, kind of fell off there at the end of the year. We've been expecting big things out of Ragland for a long time, and from what we're seeing out of camp, I really think this is the year he's going to shine. It's like you said, the comparisons to Upshaw, who is going on to have an outstanding career in the NFL so far. I mean, this is big time for Reggie. Reggie's got to be the defensive general. He's got to be the guy out there that the secondary and everybody's going to look to make the big play, to make to stop the run. I'm excited, man. I just can't say enough about what I've been hearing coming from camp about Reggie. This is going to be huge. It's time for him to shine.
Well, I tell you, obviously I'm not an Alabama fan, but I just love watching good players play well. And I remember last year several different games where you'd see Reggie Ragland get a bead and just come untouched, shoot right up through the offensive line and just smack somebody down in the backfield. It's just a beautiful thing to watch. I mean, he really does have the ability to get a bead on somebody and just level them for a loss or stop them at the line of scrimmage. He's just an impressive guy. It's definitely fun to watch him play. So,
well, with a guy like him, in the the linebacker position and in the end position where he's going to line up sometime, it really takes a lot of pressure off of your cornerbacks and your safeties because they know you've got a guy out there that can make the play. They're not going to have to worry about that second level of tackling that you see. They can focus on those wide receivers and make sure their coverage is tight and not have to worry about it. And it's not just Reggie. You got some other guys. The defensive line solid. The other linebackers are going to be great. But it's going to be nice to see Reggie do work this year.
I guess the other thing that's still continuing on, and I mean people are tired of hearing it and tired of talking about it, is this whole quarterback issue. After a week since our last podcast, I'm going to stand by my prediction that there's no way that Jake Coker is not your starting quarterback. I'm going to stand by that. It'd be interesting to see if if Saban decides to rotate a couple of them out against Wisconsin. I don't think he wants to do that, but he's sure talking like he will if it's necessary.
Well, he did it last year against West Virginia. I think it was necessary to to see who the better man was in Sims and Coker. I think you are going to see that, especially if he doesn't come out this week and name a starter. We're definitely going to see 2 quarterbacks, possibly even 3 quarterbacks if the situation calls for it. I don't think that Coker is the man right now. I think it's still a pretty tight race between him and Alec Morris. If I had to bet, I would say it's going to be Alec Morris that's going to start the game and will eventually win the starting quarterback position.
And I don't know if everybody realizes just how unlikely that is, but I mean, 6 weeks ago, who would have ever said that?
Yeah, I know. He like I said, he's the dark horse. But, we knew he had talent coming out of high school. We knew he could play ball. He had a really good spring. And it's like we said before, the Saban, Kiffin, they build the offense around the quarterback. So he doesn't have to be a gunslinger. He doesn't have to be an All-American. When you got running backs like Henry and Kenyon Drake and wide receivers like Foster and Black and those guys and tight ends like O.J. Howard, I mean, really all he has to be is a game manager. I know Bama fans are tired of hearing that phrase, the game manager. McCarron was a game manager. McElroy was a game manager. But those guys won national championships, and Alec Morris definitely has the tools to be an efficient and effective game manager.
Yeah, I think what worries people about that label this year is because people aren't quite as, Bama fans just aren't quite as confident in the playmaking ability of maybe the receiving core this year. They know you got some good backs. But, with a game manager, you need some superstar playmakers to kind of make that work out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I mean, we've got wide receivers that can make the plays. They just didn't get a chance to last year. I mean, who did? I mean, you had, DeAndrew White on a team with Amari Cooper. And DeAndrew White is an outstanding wide receiver, but look what happened there. I mean, Amari Cooper just stole the show. He was the most efficient wide receiver in college football. He broke all kinds of Alabama records, and when you have a guy like that, it's hard to give those other guys a chance. This year, we're going to see it spread out a little bit more, and I think you're looking at maybe 2, even possibly 3 really good playmakers going to be lining up outside like that.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how the season starts and how it progresses and how these guys do when we get them on the field. I mean, I know even as an Auburn fan, I'm excited to watch some Alabama football. I want to see what the team's shaped up like. I want to see how they perform and see how tight they are, especially as defense, which just continues to be touted. So I think we're all looking forward to that. As we get ready to dive into the big show, it's going to be a big one today. We've got the Big Five, and this week our Big Five is going to be the 5 biggest games that we think Alabama must win and could possibly lose if they don't keep their eye on the ball. In our Ask a Bammer segment, we're going to answer your questions. Remember, you can always direct message us your questions on Facebook. You can use the hashtag #AskABammer on Twitter, or our favorite thing, which nobody seems to be doing, which we would love, is somebody to call the voicemail and leave us a voicemail with your question at 334-377-0329. 334-377-0329. Plus, we're going to tell you about our weekly Pick'em contest. It's going to get fired up this week. Right now, we're going to jump right into this week's Big Five.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's time for the Big Five.
The Big Five is sponsored by DraftKings. Fantasy sports fans are winning huge cash prizes every day at DraftKings.com, America's favorite place to play daily fantasy sports. Daily fantasy means no season-long commitments. Play whenever you want. Just pick your sport and draft your team. It's like a new season every time you play, so you're never stuck with the same players. Over $1 billion will be won at DraftKings.com this year, and you could be next to win big, so go to DraftKings.com now and enter promo code Tigers and Tide to play for free. That's Tigers and Tide, your promo code. It's all one word, Tigers and Tide, for a free entry now at DraftKings.com. We are a compensated affiliate and glad to have those guys on as sponsors. Jamie and I were talking about earlier, we got to get on there and enter that free entry and that to the big 100K event, which I'm pretty pumped up about.
That's pretty cool, man. I've been seeing those DraftKings commercials. I'm pretty excited about having those guys on board. I'm going to sign up after this show.
Tigers and Tide, all one word, is what you need to do to get your free entry. So make sure you head on over there and do that at some point in time today. The Big five games Alabama must win, or they could potentially lose, could mess up the season if they aren't prepared for them. You and I agree on a few. We disagree on a few. Since yours is the first game of the year, I'm just going to let you go ahead and jump in with your first selection for Wisconsin.
Well, I'm going to go with Wisconsin. This is a game that, while it's not a conference game, is going to set the tone for the rest of the season. We're going to find out who our starting quarterback is. We're going to find out really how good our defense is, because Wisconsin, even though they are, one of those almighty Big Ten schools, they are actually a pretty good football team. I think they showed that last year. They got blown out by Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, but they manhandled Auburn a little bit.
I knew you were going to go there.
Hey, I couldn't help but do that. I just, this is big. The first game is always big, especially when you start with an opponent like this. A BCS school, a school that has a chance to win their conference. With this game being in Dallas, Bama being the SEC power that they are, I don't necessarily think it's a game that Bama could lose. I mean, of course they could lose it. I don't think they're going to lose. I'd tell you if I thought they were going to lose, just because I believe there's one regular season game they are going to get beat in this year. But this is that game that they've got to win. It is a must-win situation because you want to start the season off right, and you want to find out what your team's going to be.
I agree with you on they must win it or their season is going to be in the gutter. I just think they will win it easily, so that's the reason I didn't pick it. My first game of the season where I think they're going to, run into maybe a challenge where they need to be prepared is Ole Miss. And I don't know if you agree with me on that or not. But, I was reading up on this quarterback they replaced Bo Wallace with. He's a JUCO QB, and they're really talking like he will be better or at least more consistent than Bo Wallace, which Bo Wallace was pretty good last year. Let's just be honest about it. He had a few bad moments, but their O-line seems to be better. They're expecting to maybe have a running game this year. I think I read a stat where they only averaged like 2.2 yards of run last year. So it'd be hard to be much worse than that. But probably the big thing is they return everything but the kitchen sink on defense, which was a good defense last year. I think it'll be probably hard to score on them, at least be difficult. And I think you're at least going to have to play up and be physical. And so I do think Alabama's going to beat them, but I think it'll be probably be a challenging game. I think it'll be a physical game.
Let me tell you why I'm not worried about Ole Miss. The all-time record for Alabama and Ole Miss, 47-10-2.
Right.
Actually, on the field, it's 51-9-2. But the last time Ole Miss beat Alabama at home was 1988. That is the last time they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa or Birmingham or any other place that they play. Ole Miss, of course, won the game last year, 23-17. On average, Ole Miss beats Alabama 1 out of every 5 times they play. I'm not real concerned about this. Like I said, the win last year was in Oxford. This game's coming back to Tuscaloosa. It's an 8:15 kickoff. That's already been announced. It's 8:15 on ESPN. I just don't think that Ole Miss is going to be up to this game. I think last year's record, give credit where credit would due. Ole Miss was a good football team, but I don't think they're going to carry that over into this year. I think Ole Miss is looking at 4, potentially 5 losses, and I see this game as a blowout. This is going to be the first home game, or the first big home game for Alabama. Of course, they've got the whoever it is they play after they play Wisconsin, McNeese State or some school like that. But this is going to be the first big home game, and I just think it's going to be too big of an atmosphere. Bryant-Denny at night, that's going to be a tough environment for Ole Miss. I really see this one as a blowout, and I think Alabama's going to roll. Your
next game to watch out for is the A&M game, and this is a game I don't have any concerns about. When I look down the schedule, I didn't really think it was be that big a deal. So I'd be interested to hear why you think it'd be significant.
Well, I like A&M as a sleeper this year. I think they're going to be a little bit better than what the so-called experts are giving them a chance to be. They open up the season against Arizona State. That's going to tell us a lot about A&M. I think they're going to be a pretty good offensive football team. Defensively, I think we'll see the same Texas A&M. They'll be a little lackluster, but anytime you have to go to Kyle Field and play Texas A&M, I think this is just a one of those situations where Alabama could be asleep, coming off games against Arkansas, looking ahead to Tennessee. This could be one of those games that could sneak up on Bama, and I really feel like there's a game earlier in the year that Bama's going to lose. So I think this is a must-win situation for Alabama. They can't be asleep going into Kyle Field. If so, Texas A&M upsets them. That could be 2 losses potentially for Alabama.
Georgia's the next game on my list. You didn't consider Georgia at all. We'll talk about that in a second and why you're not really concerned about that game. Of course, the hype is for Georgia to win the East. The East, I think, is going to be better as a division this year. I don't know how much better overall, but I think there's going to be a lot of improvements in that division, and Georgia as well. Maybe Alabama's going to be on the road. Georgia's going to be hungry. They got Nick Chubb. I'm not sure what else you need to say about that. Yeah. And this Jeremy Pruitt defense should be better than last year. They're certainly expecting it to be. It's not going to be a joke. I think the Tide's going to have a real game on their hands here. Again, I think Alabama wins it, but I think it's a tough game. And the whole point of this exercise is games that they just can't fall asleep on, can't look past. And I think they would be foolish to look past this Georgia game, a game that you don't appear to be all that concerned about.
Well, it's not that I'm not concerned about it, Brett. It's that I think this is the one game that Bama can lose and still have a chance to play for a national SEC championship and a national championship at the end of the year. I think if they lose to Arkansas or A&M or LSU or Auburn, that eliminates them. But if Bama gets beat by Georgia, all right, they win out, they're going to play Georgia again or whoever wins the East in the SEC championship game. That's just how it is. So I think, like I said, it's not that I'm not concerned about the Dogs. It's that I believe this is the one game that they can lose and still have a path to the SEC championship and then eventually into the playoff.
That makes sense. I think, of course, you're probably figuring if that's their only loss, right? Because if there was another loss in the season, then...
Yeah, well, two losses, they're absolutely out. Unless there's 2 losses by a couple of other teams, right. That allows Bama to get back into the SEC championship and then eventually into the playoff. But absolutely, this is the game I think they can lose, and I'm confident that Bama's going to beat Georgia, and I'm confident that Bama's going to win out the rest of the schedule. So, really, this is it's a moot point anyway because Bama's going to go undefeated. They're going to conquer all and win the national championship.
The Bammer is coming out on you, my friend.
It's strong. The force is strong.
I'm going to skip your next team on the list because we both share it, so we'll do the last 2 together. So skip and let's talk Mississippi State for you.
Mississippi State, again, another team that was hot last year. Dak Prescott coming back. This is a game late in the season, coming off the game against LSU. No bye week. You have to play LSU at home, then you have to go to Mississippi State. You have to worry about, the hangover effect, whether or not it's a big win for Bama or if it's a tough loss for Bama. Either way, they could be riding so high that Mississippi State, has them ripe for the picking, or they could just be so low that Mississippi State just, walks right over them. One of those games, it really goes back to Georgia. If they lose to Georgia, then it's absolutely a must-win situation. This is one that could sneak up on Bama. Mississippi State's going to have a good football team again this year. Going to be a lot better than Ole Miss. I think Mississippi State is for real. So, I don't know. This one worries me just a little bit. I'll be interested to see what time the kickoff is. If it's an 11:30 kickoff, which it's been known to be, then I'm a little more worried about than like a 6 or 7 o'clock kickoff because we just don't do good early against State.
My next game on the I can't really argue with anything you said there. It's weird to me, of the 2 Mississippi teams, I actually like Ole Miss a little bit better this year, although I think Mississippi State will probably have a pretty decent season again this year. The next game on the list for me is Arkansas, and it's not so much because I think Alabama's going to lose to Arkansas, even though last year's game was, that was a nail-biter last year. I think Arkansas has had this game circled. I think they've had this game circled. They're very frustrated that they couldn't pull the win out last year. I think they're looking to be better in a lot of areas this year. But the big thing for me about this game is even if Alabama wins it, and I'm going to say the same thing in the other podcast when we talk about Auburn. I think the thing about this game you have to worry about is coming out healthy.
Right.
Arkansas is big. They're big, and they just love to hit you a lot. Like, they want to hit you a lot. So even if you get away with the win, you need to come out healthy. And I think it's a trap game. I think it's a potential downfall game, and there's just a lot of things that could go wrong even if you win. And for those reasons, I just think it's a game to watch. I don't necessarily think Alabama will lose it. I think you just got to watch out for it.
Yeah, I think, this is similar to the state game. This game depends a lot on how healthy Bama comes out of the Georgia game. If it's a win, is it a confidence booster? You said Arkansas had the game circled. I think Bama has the game circled as well. We all know Bielema's not making a whole lot of friends out there in Arkansas right now. I think Saban's going to be the guy that finally shuts this guy up. I don't think this is going to be a close game at all, really. Arkansas, they lost a lot of starters. I mean, I just don't think that philosophy that he has is going to work in the SEC this year. I know they won some games at the end of the year last year. I just think Bama, it's really, you want to compare right now Arkansas to somebody like Tennessee. Yeah, they're up and coming, but they're still not on that same level as LSU, Alabama, Auburn, or even Georgia. If the game was in Fayetteville, I would say Arkansas had a much better chance to win because we all know as Auburn and Alabama fans how hard it is to go with Fayetteville and win the game. But with it being in Tuscaloosa, I just think this is a game Bama's going to handle.
I agree with you. I think Alabama's going to win it. I just think they need to be careful to come out ahead. Look, Arkansas was a one-trick pony last year. It's very hard to beat good teams with good coaches with a one-trick pony team. They did push Alabama to wire last year, though. So, it can be done. I think it'll look much different this year.
Yeah, Bama made a lot of mistakes in that game, got away from the game plan. I think it's going to be different this year. I think that's the game they're going to dominate.
All right, so we both got the last two games are the same on the list, and these have really turned out to be, especially for Alabama. Alabama not only has really two big rivalry games, like the LSU game a lot of years is even bigger than the Iron Bowl. Maybe not in the amount of hype, but in terms of what's on the line and what it boils down to. But those are the other two games. I mean, I have both of those, LSU and the Iron Bowl. The Iron Bowl, for obvious reasons, I don't think there's a ton that I can say about the Iron Bowl other than it's just big. It's always big. I'm very happy that we get it on the Plains this year, and we'll see how that shakes out. But LSU for Alabama is perennial. Just every year is just a tough game, and I don't think it'll be different this year, but we'll see. I mean, I think probably the thing that isn't great for Alabama is that you get them later in the season. I mean, luckily Auburn gets them early in the season, and I think LSU is going to be one of those teams that builds and grows and finds out who they are in some positions and gets better. So I'm glad we're getting them earlier in the year. They could potentially either be a great team at this point in the season, or it could go downhill for them. It's hard to say at this point.
I think LSU is going to be an outstanding football team. Anytime a Les Miles coach football team comes on the field, you have to be ready for anything. And he's got some weapons this year. Leonard Fournette, man, that dude is just an absolute man-child. He is a beast, dude. He's a beast. And I really wish he was playing for Alabama because he is a great running back. He's going to have a great future in the SEC and in the NFL. This game scares me. It always scares me, especially when it's in Tuscaloosa. I like for Bama to go to Death Valley. I don't know, Brett. This one worries me really as far as, the Western Division opponents. This one worries me more than any other team out there because, like you said, it is late in the year. More than likely it's going to be a night game. It's going to be tough. It's going to be real tough.
So there you go. There's the potential trap games for Alabama this year as we head into the season where Alabama has a lot of expectations. They have a lot of high expectations. They have a lot of goals that are very achievable for that team. And I think as long as, you mentioned Georgia, I think as long as they don't lose more than one game and it's the right game. You can't lose the wrong game. Even with one loss, I think they'd be fine. Of course, that will probably come down to the Iron Bowl, provided that Auburn handles itself, which I like. I like it when it comes down to the last game, and it either makes or breaks either team. Yeah. It is always a beautiful thing to me.
Would be great if they're both undefeated going into the Iron Bowl.
So hang tight. Coming up, we're going to be talking about doing maybe my favorite new segment on the show. It's Ask a Bammer, where we take your questions as you submitted to them and do our best to answer them. We'll do that next right here on the Tigers and Tide podcast.
There's a game within the game that requires a different set of skills. There's no off-season. This is a play as much as you want, whenever you want, Fantasy League. And we don't just play. We are players. We train, and we win. This isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time.
Use promo code Tigers and Tide to play free. Play free at DraftKings.com with promo code Tigers and Tide, all one word.
It's time for Ask a Bammer. Submit your questions on Twitter or Facebook using the hashtag AskABammer. You can also private message us your questions at Facebook.com/Tigers and Tide or email us ask@tigersandtide.net. Our favorite questions come from the voicemail box. We'd love to put your questions on the air. Just call 334-377-0329 and leave your question as a voicemail. That's 334-377-0329. This is Ask a Bammer with Brett Mason and Jamie Thomas.
And our Ask a Bammer segment is brought to you by Blueberry Podcast Hosting Services. For as little as $12, you can start your own podcast. And Blueberry makes it super easy. Just produce, post, and publish. And listeners to our show can try it for free. If you've ever thought, man, that Jamie and that Brett, I can podcast better than them.
I'm sure there are many out there that can.
Yeah, you can try it for free. Just go to southeasternfootball.com/free month to start podcasting for free right now. That's southeasternfootball.com/free month. When you go, you'll want to use code Tigers and Tide at checkout. That's all one word. Tigers and Tide. Remember, you can ask us a question using the hashtag AskABammer on Twitter, or leave us a voicemail, 334-377-0329, 334-377-0329. And when you leave us a voicemail, we're happy to put that on the air, which is a lot of fun. We had two questions this week from both of them were posted on Twitter. One of them, I guess, is going to be for amusement purposes only. I went ahead and took her question because she's so darn attractive. Is that sexist of me?
No, you're smart, man.
Also followed
smart, man.
I followed her immediately on Twitter. I'm like, But we'll start with a serious question. This was from Dean Mitchell at Johnny Bravo 1965. Why has Coker not secured the Bama starting QB job? He was supposed to be the man.
Well, first off, Dean, outstanding Twitter handle, Johnny Bravo. I love it. I think this one is pretty simple, Brett. I mean, it's, lack of leadership. I think Jake Coker, when he arrived on campus, he wasn't able to grasp the playbook. He didn't have the confidence of his offensive line, of his wide receivers, of his running backs. He just never, as Saban has alluded to, taken the bull by the horns. And I think that's still the problem this year. I think the lack of leadership. I don't know if it's if he's just not grasping the playbook, if that's confusing him, it's on the field. But he's obviously missing something. And when you don't have the confidence of your teammates, you can't be the starting quarterback.
I wonder. The whole thing with Coker started way back with the FSU quotes about how he was nearly as good as Jameis Winston, and I think that set everybody up to just expect way too much for him. Yeah. I wonder if he did that on purpose when he said that.
He might have. He sabotaged us, didn't he?
That's like multi-leveling everybody here. And I know he went home that night and was like, man, this is going to cause big problems.
Got you, Saban.
I'll tell you the one thing that I watched is there's a video on AL.com of, I believe it's 3 of the quarterbacks doing passing drills. And I went and watched that yesterday, and just watching that, Alec Morris, who became the dark horse favorite to win now, very late in camp, comparing his posture, his stance, just how he just looks like he's just very comfortable doing it. And I watched Coker, and he just didn't look like he was real secure about what he was doing. He was just a little
doesn't have the confidence.
Yeah, and so I think that's probably the big thing there. Helen Bandy at Bandy Tamika also posted in the thread about Ask a Bammer, is there anything more important in life than love? And so I'm going to let you field that question.
Absolutely. Alabama football.
I knew you were going to say that. I just knew that you were going to say that.
If you're going to one of these speed dating courses, if you have one question to ask, and you sit down and you look her right in the eye and you say, "Do you love Alabama football?" And if she says no, you turn your head and say, "Next."
If only life were that simple for all of us, Jeremy.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. Just search for Tigers and Tide.
All right, here we go. We had a big, massive Barner, Bammer, blowout, smack talking special planned for the week leading up to opening kickoff weekend, and of course, the Auburn fan let us down. The Alabama fans showed up though. Melody Lee is with us on the show today. Hey, Melody, welcome in.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Hey, I'm perfectly fine with it just being Melody. I mean, who needs two Barners in a room anyway? I mean,
it's interesting to note that Melody and the other person that was supposed to be on the show are both ex-morning show partners of mine in radio, and now I clearly have a favorite. I'm just going to...
And she's a Bammer.
How you doing, Melody?
I've been doing really good, staying busy, but doing good. I am ready for football.
God, it's been forever. Like every week, me and Jamie are just counting down. Like, see, me and Jamie don't really have lives outside of football. Like, you're a big, powerful radio executive and all this stuff. You got things going on.
Yeah.
We just sit around waiting for kickoff. That's all we got in our whole life.
The football kickoff here in the South, it's a big thing. It's something that I think usually, starting about 100 days out, people do start keeping up with how many days left to kickoff.
I tell you another reason I like and respect Melody is because she's an Alabama fan that actually went to Alabama. That just means something special to me because I don't get to use that insult that us Barners like to use.
Wait a minute, hang on. Wait a minute. So you don't respect me?
Well, I mean, you're my partner on the show, so I kind of have to respect you a little bit. But you know what it is. That's one of our favorite insults when you run into some loudmouth redneck Bammer and you're like, man, you didn't even go to Alabama. Sit down and shut up. I want you to know, though, Jamie, and Melody knows this because I was on the show with her when I did it. I actually took a management class at Auburn, so I can say I went there.
You told me, yeah.
He did. Online. It was an online class.
It don't matter. I went.
He enrolled in that online class specifically so if anybody ever said, "Oh, hush, you never even went to Auburn," he'd go, "Oh, but I did."
Hey, I got a certificate. I have it hanging on the wall, baby.
See? There you go.
Was your major also public administration?
Oh, God, shut up, man. I don't even want to get started on that. Like every college in the United States of America doesn't have a class and a major specifically for
public administration.
Come on. Like Alabama don't have a class just for the players that can't really meet the mustard. Come on.
We're not the one that's got the NCAA involved. I'm just saying.
Let me tell you something. I don't know if Alabama has a course like that, but I know that I took Swahili while at Alabama, specifically because I was told it was the language class that all the football players could pass.
You're joking. You're not even telling the truth.
No, I am being dead serious. I took Swahili in college for that reason.
Why have I never in all my years of knowing you ever heard you speak 1 ounce of Swahili before?
Yeah, why don't you speak
Odi, Karibu. There you go.
What does that mean? War Eagle?
Hello, how are you in Swahili?
Get right out of here.
Not a true story.
Oh, I had no idea. And so it was you and 37 Alabama players in the class?
Well, had I taken the semester before, that is exactly what it would have been. The semester that I took, like an idiot, they decided to make it harder, and our one grade in the whole class was an oral final with the person that wrote the book, the textbook.
Oh, wow.
The football players moved on. I think they started taking some other language.
So what you think about Wisconsin? Are you nervous at all, Melody? How you think it's going to go? You got a score prediction, game prediction? What's your thoughts going on into opening kickoff?
I wouldn't say nervous. I'm confident in Alabama. But I don't think by any means it's going to be a blowout. I think this first game is going to be a chance for, the coaches to kind of look back and say, okay, this is where we need to make adjustments, or we nailed this, that type of thing. But, I mean, I hope it's a good game. Of course, I have to predict that Alabama wins. Well,
a good game for Alabama fans is when you are leading 75-3. Because
No, I don't like those games.
I swear to God, every time I'm hanging out with Alabama fans watching games, you see how I generalize everybody because that's what we do as Auburn fans. Every time I'm watching a game, Alabama fans, if y'all are less than like 21 points ahead, y'all are just nervous. Like the whole thing is about to fall apart. Like, oh my God, we're only 21 points ahead.
Did you pay attention to Alabama before Saban got there?
Yeah, I did, actually.
Well, then you know why we get nervous when we're only up by 21 points.
I enjoyed it a lot before Saban got there.
Yeah, because there was the 6 years in a row that the Iron Bowl Auburn won?
We were all cocky, man. We'd moved over from one hand to the thumb, and things were just starting to get out of hand, and then here comes Saban.
Yeah. It was physically painful those 6 years.
That's all right. Gus is our savior, and Gus is evil leveled the playing field, and it's going to be ugly this year. I hope y'all have good memories of the Iron Bowl last year, because I promise you it will be very ugly for y'all this year.
I promise. That's a promise.
I think that the more interesting now that Auburn is led by Gus and Alabama is led by Saban, I think it's more interesting. To me, the Iron Bowl, it's not as much fun when you go into the game and you know immediately because of the seasons that, one of the teams, has been having. When you're knowing going into it that the other team is just going to get massacred, it's just not fun to watch.
Yeah, well, there's definitely not as much excitement leading up to it, but once it gets started, I do like blowouts. They are fun to watch. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
There's an Auburn fan who was just saying that about Bama fans. They love blowouts.
Well, I definitely do in the Iron Bowl. Nothing is more satisfaction. It'd be fascinating if we wound up having a low-scoring defensive with not a lot of offense. We haven't had one of those in several years. That'd be fun.
I wouldn't mind seeing an Alabama shutout.
Well, of course you wouldn't, you stamped homer. If you think that Alabama can keep Gus Malzahn from scoring points, man, you've lost your mind.
I love good defense games, though. The low scoring where the defense is just, they're all in beast mode and I love those games. Those are great games.
That's funny. Melody's a true fan, man. She's not like some of these women that they recognize the logo and they go,
well,
go Bama. And
they know who the quarterback is, and that's it. Yeah. Now, she's the real deal, man. She's the real deal.
Yeah.
Holy crap, I'm getting a phone call from Jerry Broadway. Hang on a second. Jerry Broadway, better late than ever, sir. Welcome to the Fiesta.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry I'm late.
Just get here when you can, buddy.
I'd like you to know for 15 minutes I've had to hold the line alone against two Alabama fans. It's been a sheer nightmare.
Well, I'm sure you've done fine.
You obviously weren't here for the call.
Well, let me tell you something. You failed to mention that the Alabama fans have been very kind.
I don't know if I'd call any of what just went on very kind, but I'll tell you, it's better than some encounters I've had with Alabama fans.
Are we going to have to edit all the bad things we said about Jerry out now?
No, we're definitely leaving that in there.
No, I want to hear them so I can compare them to old stuff that people have said about me, because I promise you hadn't said anything original. And that's not just because you're Alabama fans. It's because I've heard it all.
See, I should not be beating up on Broadway because theoretically he's my partner in this 2 versus 2 Alabama versus Auburn Smack Talk session, but I can't resist because I've known him for so long. But you can count on Broadway to do one or two things in almost any situation, either be late or hit his thumb with a hammer. That's just the kind of guy Jerry Broadway is.
I have been late a time or two because I hit my thumb with a hammer. It all comes together.
I saw him post on Facebook the other day about some injury he incurred doing some kind of a project, and I'm like, ain't nobody surprised by that.
No, that was the night I got Gorilla Glue on my thumb, and it screwed my thumbprint up, and I couldn't get into my iPhone for like a day and a half.
Oh, my Lord.
Next year when you see those, when it gets popular where all the memes are going up, Broadway will be featured in one of the Auburn memes. I'm just telling you that right now.
Jerry, did you think to use your other hand?
No, it only works on the one hand. I didn't program it which is stupid. I probably should have programmed it for all 10 just in case. But who's got time for that?
I'm trying to be more careful when I have the Gorilla Glue. I'm just going to tell you.
Because listen, if you ever want to go into a life of crime, just squirt some of that crap on your hands before you go in, because you're not going to leave fingerprints.
Identity unknown. They'll still be able to pick you out as an Auburn fan, though. I'm just want to tell you that right now.
No comment.
So we were just talking about the Iron Bowl. This year, I'm expecting it to just be like they're trying to tell me they're looking for shutouts this year and everything, and I just don't think it's going to happen.
Shutout?
Yeah, shutout. That's what.
Come on.
That's
Now,
James
for
Thompson.
the record, whoa, hang on, Brett. For the record, no one said there was going to be a shutout. We just said we'd be happy with a shutout.
Maybe I interpreted the conversation wrongly.
And I think I said, if I recall correctly, that I like the defense games where it's a low-scoring game.
Yeah, I anticipate a low-scoring game, too, at least on Bama's side of the field.
Oh, here we go.
Finally,
What happens when you get public?
Here we go.
Man, I'm telling you, this is ridiculous.
get in there and punch it out, Broadway. Get in and jab. I like it.
Listen, y'all have to understand, for the last 3 years of my life, I have been stuck in Big 12 hell. So anytime I get a chance to talk SEC, I'm in, and I got build up. I'm sorry.
I tell you, I was worried about you stuck out there in Oklahoma where football is bad and the women are toothless.
The toothless women play football, it would probably improve things.
Were there a lot of debates about the Big 12 versus the SEC while you were there?
Oh, listen, I have held my ground. I have held firm to my SEC roots, and these people hate me for it. But you know, they don't understand good football. They just don't.
It's interesting because I've never lived anywhere except in the Southeast, so I don't know what it's like to be in a different kind of a vibe. But is the madness out there the same for their conference or for the teams? Or what's the difference between being there in Alabama? Was it a big difference?
Can you block this podcast from being heard in Oklahoma?
Oh, sure. Go right ahead and speak your
right,
mind.
man. Listen, much like everything else out here, they think they're in the South. They're not.
Right.
They think they're Southern. They're not. They think that they have good football. They don't. But now I will say this: the OU OSU thing out here is almost as crazy as the Auburn Alabama thing, but it's not quite.
Is that the rivalry game where the winner gets a squirrel tail or something like that, or
I don't really know. I know that people always make fun of your football teams, what you say, like War Eagle, Roll Tide. But is there anything dumber? Honest to God, is there anything dumber than Boomer Sooner?
No. No, there is not.
What is it?
I mean, honest to God. I mean, how people, and I know because Auburn fan, and I'm an Auburn fan. We're not quite as bad as the Bama people are about using our school's battle cry as a verb or an adjective or a greeting or. We don't. Most people don't walk into a dentist office and go War Eagle, but they'll do it with Roll Tide, and don't say they won't because they will. But out here they try that with the Boomer Sooner thing, and they'll go Boomer, and you're supposed to say Sooner, and I can't do it. I can't do it.
That's just stupid. So you only say half of it out there, and then the other person has to say the other half.
Yes, it requires group participation. You have one dude yells Boomer, the other dude yells Sooner, and then somebody shoots a cannon, and the cowboy rides out with the Indian. I don't know. It's just craziness.
Jerry, we've heard rumors of Oklahoma bailing on the Big 12 also and possibly trying to join the SEC. Is that a legitimate rumor? Are you hearing anything like that out there, or is it?
If you stand around and listen to the people that are supposed to know what they're talking about, everybody in the Big 12 is trying to get out and join the SEC. Yeah, they're just like, this whole thing. Because it's funny because if I'm not mistaken, there's only 10 teams left in the Big 12, which makes no sense.
Oh, God, people are so stupid out there. I feel prouder of being in the South and being an Auburn fan the further along this conversation goes. I'm just going to tell you that right now. And I went, and you talked about people don't get too crazy as Auburn fans. I'm going to tell you, Jerry, me and my mom were up at UAB in the Cancer Center this week, where we got really good news, by the way, on a side note. No less than 3 people in the Cancer Center up there, one of them getting an infusion, yelled War Eagle at me as I walked by, which is really,
oh my gosh,
which is really odd because you're at a University of Alabama campus.
Which throws
That's
Jerry's
defiance right
dentist
there.
office reference completely out the window.
Listen, that's a whole new level of defiance right there.
I
I've
tell
been
you,
to Alabama hospital screaming War Eagle. I love it.
I tell you, when me and my mom first started going up there, because I won't wear my Auburn hat every day because I ain't gonna comb my hair and all I got is Auburn hats. Every time we'd go up there, I'd be scared to death I was gonna get beat down in the back alley somewhere by some Alabama fan. But they not too bad over there at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. But now Tuscaloosa, I don't know if I'd feel quite so brave over there. Melody went there. Did you ever beat anybody up wearing an Auburn hat, Melody?
Of course I did not. Let me tell you something. I know no, there are the crazy Alabama fans. I will attest to that. But for the most part, the people in Tuscaloosa, they are not near as violent as some of the Bama fans that are, around everywhere else. People in Tuscaloosa, for the most part, they, the ones that are from there are going to school there. They're very friendly to the other teams when they come and play there.
Except for Auburn.
No, even Auburn.
They might be friendly to the people. They hell on a tree, though.
I'm going to have to say I went to the Iron Bowl last year in Tuscaloosa, and I was ashamed. So I got to disagree with you on that one, Mel. Things may have changed since you were there, but I'm going to tell you what, the students these days, they're unbelievable. I mean, it was they don't respect other teams' traditions, other teams' mascots. Other teams' fans, it's crazy.
I tell you what, I've never been more happy that I'm too poor to go to the Iron Bowl because I'd get in a fight for sure.
I went to the Iron Bowl this last year, and let me tell you something. Maybe it's girls are different than guys, maybe, because the females in the women's restroom during halftime were perfectly pleasant to one another. They were complimenting each other's outfits.
In all fairness, you were probably the only female there that cared about the football game.
Hey, is there a urinal in the women's room on the Bama side of that stadium? I'm just curious.
No, there is not.
I tell you the difference, Jamie. Melody was probably sitting in a high dollar section of the Iron Bowl,
so.
And you were probably sitting on the edge somewhere where they usually only let wild animals roam or some kind of crap
I was
like that.
sitting near the student section, and I'll tell you, if I would have had 30,000 bars of soap, I would have cleaned out every one of them's mouth.
Let me tell you this. I've been to just about all of the SEC stadiums, and there are two that scare the shocker calling out of me. And it's going to LSU. I did not feel safe when I traveled there. And it was the Swamp going to Florida.
I've never been to Death Valley, but I've been to the Swamp before, and that is a very scary place because I used to live in Florida, and FSU is still one of my teams. But now I agree with you. That was a scary place to go.
I'll agree, too. Baton Rouge is probably the only stadium I'll never go back to.
When you have a place where the coach openly eats grass from the turf during a game, you're probably in for a special kind of appearance, when you show up there for one of their games.
It's scary when they're not playing football, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. The only time that I've ever been knocked out by a punch from a guy was from a Florida fan.
You got knocked out by a Florida fan?
He, one of my girlfriends had a little too much to drink, and she was trying to get some fresh air. And he was doing the gator chomp right in her face. And I said, that's probably not a good idea. She's feeling like she's about to throw up. You may want to step back a couple feet and, get out of her face. Well, he came back up, and then he started doing it, and he was actually hitting her face when he was doing it. I said, dude, seriously, just back up. And at that point, he was very intoxicated, I will say that. He just hauled off and knocked my tail out. I was gone.
God, they treat drunken women way differently than I do. I'm real nice to them and try to show them how much I care.
Wow.
Can I just say this, since I'm here for Smack Talk purposes? Only an Alabama fan would go out for fresh air in an open-air football stadium.
No. This was after the fact. After the game.
Oh my goodness! It's stuffy in here. I gotta go out for some air.
Y'all are bad.
I sure am glad Broadway showed up and helped me turn the tables on this conversation.
Sorry, Mel. That was funny.
It was funny. It was.
Oh, thanks, guys, for being on the show. I really, really appreciate it. A big War Eagle to you, Melody.
Roll Tide.
Yeah, War Eagle, Melody. I'm going to go outside and get some fresh air.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to y'all soon. All right, real quick before we head out of here, I want to remind you, time is running out to enter our free Pick'em contest. Look, it's free. Don't cost nothing to enter it, and you can win free prizes every single week. I was in there looking at how many people signed up a couple of days ago, and I'm like, man, it's awesome that these people are playing, but where's everybody else at? It's free. So all you got to do is go to southeasternfootball.com/picks. southeasternfootball.com/picks. You're going to need the password podcast when you go to sign up, but all the information is on that page. It don't cost you a dime. We use the Yahoo Pick'em League that's free to sign up and play. And
it's straight up, so you don't have to worry about picking the spread or anything like that.
Yeah, and I even went in and changed it. I had it set, Jamie, where you can do those confidence points. So you could like if you're really confident about a game, you can give it the maximum points, which will help your score. I even went and eliminated that because I went through and tried to pick, and I was like, this is too hard. So I just took that away. We could not have made it easier. You just pick straight up, and there's a couple of tiebreakers that you have to pick. And it's easy to play. It looks a lot of fun. Take you 5 minutes, and you could win free prizes, which Jamie, one of the richest people I know, is footing the bill on.
You don't know too many people.
Southeasternfootball.com/picks is where you need to go. And that wraps up the show for us. Hey, we'll be back on Thursday with our final show before kickoff weekend. Make sure you're here with us for that. We will run down the ins and outs, the ups and downs, and the very latest as we get set for the Wisconsin game. And we'll be talking with Elizabeth Sturdivant from 3yardsinthecloud.com, and she'll be picking that game and a bunch of other games, telling you where you can break the bookie this weekend if that's something you want to get into. So that'll be a lot of fun. She's so smart. I love having her on the show. She knows way more about football.
She definitely takes this show to a new level. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So she'll be with us on the Thursday show. We'll see you then. Until then, War Eagle, buddy.
Roll Tide, roll.
Don't forget to follow us at Tigers and Tide 1 on Twitter and Facebook.com/Tigers and Tide. Also, be sure to follow Bama Sports Radio at Bama Sports Radio for the latest on Crimson Tide sports. Thanks for listening to the Alabama Football Podcast from SoutheasternFootball.com on Bama Sports Radio of the Sporto channel. Download our free iOS app. Just search for Tigers and Tide in the App Store. And subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. Just search for Tigers and Tide. And for the latest SEC news, log on to SoutheasternFootball.com.